Hey guys, it's Mike here, and today I'm going to be discussing a topic that a lot of Dragon Ball fans have been wondering ever since the ending of the fight between King Piccolo and Goku at the end of the King Piccolo arc. And that is, why did King Piccolo not regenerate after Goku punched a hole right through him, much like we would go on to see his descendant, his son, Piccolo Jr. do in the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, and also afterward in the franchise? Well, let's be getting into that right now, discussing in-universe and out-of-universe why this might be the case, and providing evidence using the manga that I'm going to be showing you in this video. So let's jump into that right now. But before I begin, I just wanted to let you all know that I actually have an Instagram page, which is at Laughingstock Media, and a TikTok at LSM Mike, where I post exclusive videos and other things that you could check out over there. So if you're interested in any of this, you can give me a follow on either of these pages, the link to which will be down below in the description. So for those of you who may not remember, during the end of the King Piccolo fight, King Piccolo had taken advantage of Goku by holding Tien hostage and basically crippling Goku's different limbs. However, he left one arm free and not broken. At this point, Goku used it to blast himself upward, propelling himself toward King Piccolo, and then putting every single thing he had into his right hand, into his fist, using this penetrate Ozaru form attack, I suppose you could say, that punch, going right through him. In many ways, people kind of see this as like a precursor of the Dragon Fist from the movies. And he goes right through him, boom, goes straight through the evil Demon King, tearing a hole right through him in a typical bloody Toriyama fashion at this point in the franchise, something that fans really appreciated, and he ends up defeating Piccolo. At this point, what do we see happen? Piccolo doesn't regenerate like his son would go on to do after this. Instead, he's saying, wow, I've been defeated, this guy is brilliant, I didn't think we'd be so easily taken care of. However, he then spits up an egg, which he says, one day, my son, avenge your father's death. Don't let the fire of evil die out. And then, because, it's an anime and it's Dragon Ball, he blows up for some reason. And as a result, that is the end of the evil Demon King Piccolo, at least until his reincarnation in the form of his son. So there's the question right there. Why doesn't King Piccolo regenerate? Because as we go on to see with his son in the very next arc, during the final climactic fight of the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, what do we see right here? Piccolo fires a blast at Goku. Goku is able to bring it back to him, and then in turn hit Piccolo with his own technique, and Piccolo's left arm is crippled from the attack. It's completely useless, and so what does Piccolo do? Well, he rips that arm right off in the first time we see him doing this, and regrows it. So this demonstrates that Piccolo does in fact have the ability to, in fact, regenerate even horrible, ghastly, different bodily injuries like losing a limb, kind of like a lizard, even though I guess he's based off a slug and a snail. So the question is, why didn't he do this here? Because Piccolo would go on to do this numerous times throughout the Dragon Ball franchise, and even taking it to even more extreme extents, because, like, for example, in the Buu saga, we see the most extreme example of this occur, where Piccolo is frozen in stone as a statue, and then Kid Trunks comes up to him, he's like, I wonder why there's a statue of Piccolo here. He punches it, and the statue shatters, as we could see right here. However, shortly after, Deborah is eaten and defeated by Majin Buu by turning him into a cookie, as you could see right here. Everyone is turned back to normal. And that's at that point, Trunks is like, oh, shoot. And he goes right up here, and he sees what? Piccolo's broken remains. That's pretty messed up for a kid to be seeing right there, isn't it? However, very shortly afterward, they look up and they see that Piccolo is totally fine. And everyone's shocked because it's like, how is this even possible? Trunks says, Piccolo, how did you do that? And Piccolo says, regeneration is nothing so long as my head is intact. I guess intact is kind of splitting hairs a little bit, because it does look like some of it probably chipped off when he fell face first on the ground. But nonetheless, we could see just how damaged and destroyed his body was after that happened, and yet he's able to totally regenerate himself because his head was mostly intact here. So Again, why is this Piccolo and the same Piccolo here are able to regenerate, whereas this Piccolo, the original Demon King Piccolo Daimao, was not able to do so? Well, I think that one of the factors in this place comes down to energy. So at this point, Piccolo and Goku had a long drawn out fight here. Both of them were going all out, doing significant damage to one another, and as a result, Piccolo wasn't exactly at 100% by the time that Goku flew right through him. Additionally, this is a massive amount of damage that was done to him by a piercing attack where Goku used all of his ability, all of his power, that was able to deal significant damage to Piccolo. So by the time that this damage was dealt, Piccolo barely had any energy left within him, really just enough, it seems like, to spawn a child. And why is this important? Well, because the fact that we see that there are a number of times where Piccolo, the other Piccolo, his son, isn't necessarily able to just regenerate totally fine. Like, for example, when Piccolo is fighting against Frieza, and he gets so devastated by Frieza's second or third form, just by these finger blasts he was dealing to Piccolo, that he needs to have Dende heal him. And Piccolo doesn't have an arm missing, a leg missing, he doesn't have a big hole in his body, he just has a bunch of little holes in his body. That's because every single one of these peppering attacks that Frieza dealt to him not only was doing damage, but was also dealing significant stamina reduction to Piccolo and reducing his amount of power, to where he couldn't just regenerate all of his wounds. Piccolo can't just infinitely regenerate like a Deadpool or Wolverine or something like that. It takes a massive amount of energy for him to do that. It's not like Majin Buu and even Cell, although Cell still would lose energy. Additionally, as we see during the fight between Frieza and Nail earlier in the arc, what happens? Nail powers up to 42,000, his full power. Frieza is impressed because it's like, oh, you know, you're a warrior Namekian, you're actually pretty tough, but I have 530,000 on my side. Nail goes to fight him, he can't do anything to Frieza, and Frieza rips Nail's arm off, or at least, you know, his part of his forearm and his wrist, and Nail then regenerates again. So what happens here? Frieza specifically says, more surprises you can regenerate. But your arm grows back, but your battle strength has gone down and stays there. So basically what they're saying right here is it takes a significant amount of energy, stamina, and power for a Namekian to be able to regenerate. So again, going back to what we saw against Piccolo, he had a massive hole blown right through him, and so he couldn't just easily regenerate this. It's not just something that, you know, the normal Piccolo would necessarily be able to do either, because we've seen especially in Dragon Ball Super, Piccolo can get one little hole blown through him and he dies. And that's because the fact that, again, it isn't just because, oh, there's a little piece of my body missing, I'll just, you know, regenerate it up like that. You know, it is that he also has so much damage dealt to him in terms of the energy itself, dealing an energy attack to him, that he requires someone else to heal him, a sensu bean, or so on and so forth. So it's not like he has infinite spammable regeneration. He can only regenerate what he has the energy to do and the physical capability of doing, which he didn't have here. Another thing is, too, all the other Piccolos we see are vastly more powerful than this one. The Piccolo that's fighting Goku right here is way more powerful than this one. He was able to fight against a Goku who trained for 3 years with Kami. Additionally, the Piccolo that we see in the Buu Saga has a power level in the hundreds of millions or billions at this point. And so obviously, him regenerating his entire body like this is going to be significantly less taxing comparative to if Piccolo here had to regenerate himself too. And again, also Nail had a power level of a 42,000 compared to Piccolo, who had a power level maybe in the hundreds. They didn't even have power levels back then. There have been guides that came out and said power levels, but I don't really buy any of those. So either way, the point of the matter is that we see here in universe, it doesn't really make sense for Piccolo to be able to regenerate this damage simply because all of the above factors I had mentioned. The amount of damage done to him beyond just simple physical damage, the fact that he was already kind of fighting and worn down a little bit, the fact that he wasn't as powerful as the other Namekians, and another thing too, as I mentioned in my previous video, you could see on my channel and down below in the description, I talked about how Piccolo is also the one that we see Piccolo Jr., just like Nail, is actually a warrior Namekian. He is not the same type of Namekian as Demon King Piccolo here. Demon King Piccolo is a dragon clan who might also be a demon because he is the spawn of Kami's evil side. And thus, in turn, he is the manifestation of that evil, and thus he might not have the ability to regenerate the same way. It's possible that dragon clans do not have this type of regeneration that a warrior clan, a warrior type, has, like a Piccolo Jr. and a Nail. And so as a result, it's also possible that he didn't regenerate because he doesn't have that type of power within him, just like the other types do, but he does not. So there's that to keep in mind. Now, as for the out-of-universe rationale, it's likely that Toriyama simply didn't come up with this concept when he was writing the King Piccolo arc. He came up with it afterward as kind of a way of showing just how powerful Piccolo Jr. was, Ma Jr., and making it to where, in fact, he was capable to regenerate that arm, whereas his father could not, and then he decided to keep it as kind of a Namekian feature afterward so that they would be able to, in turn, regenerate, but didn't really necessarily think of going back and be like, oh wait, why didn't his father do that? So that could be the out-of-universe rationale. But like I said during the course of the video, in-universe, it seems like it's a combination of energy, damage done, maybe the type of Namekian, and the other factors I mentioned. But what do you guys think? Why did King Piccolo not regenerate in the King Piccolo arc of Dragon Ball? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future. See you later.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.